I don't want to lose. I want to win! I need professional help.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sports Betting Weekly, sponsored by EasySportsData.com. The books use data, shouldn't you too? And this is easy sports data, like the preschoolers use. EasySportsData.com.
I win here and I win there. Now what?
Sports Betting Weekly.
I want to win!
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
You should also check out SportsBettingLessons.com. You'll learn some old tricks because sometimes how you bet is more important than who you bet. SportsBettingLessons.com.
Let's just do it. Let's meet this thing head on. And you were in it to win it. Talk about an education.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Wow, winning.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Welcome to Sports Betting Weekly. I am second half Chaz. It is Thursday. It is 8:09 Eastern time. So if it's where you are and it's 8:09 Eastern time in New York, then you're in the right place at the right time. But it's a unique situation for us on our live action. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide over and check in with John from GMF Sports Consultants. John, how is your Thursday?
Thursday's going pretty good so far. Just kind of getting ready to tap into this NFL draft and kind of keep an eye on that there.
All right, so that's a great point. Where am I going to go on my website if I'm the first time ever betting the NFL draft, but I want to be betting on the next pick and the next pick after that? So is that going to be live action or is that going to be under NFL action? Where's that going to be?
It should be under NFL. They should have, as soon as you tap into whatever, football, National Football League, they should have a special tab that would be kind of draft prop bets or some, every book kind of words it differently, but it should be, draft betting or something of the nature of that. But it should be under NFL options. Yeah. I
thought for sure that it would be easier to find than it is. And I have enough sports books to keep a guy busy. Yeah. Black Hawk West, we did, however, give you shouts out. So because we're running a little late, coming from the meeting that we had with the Belly Up Sports crew on their draft show, what we're looking at is we got your picks in because they were asking for props, and it was kind of funny. What happened is Chris didn't have any, and I just held up my Post-it note. Those are your picks. I don't know what I did with them, but I put them in for you. So, and you were on. You had the Clemson guy. You had the Clemson guy. Yep. You had where's Swirl from?
Oregon.
Okay, and you had you had the fourth pick. You had a couple players in the fourth pick.
Yeah. And
then you had you were big. You had a couple ETN plays, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I like ETN to go high. My favorite play is I texted it to you shortly ago. It's a plus 600 for Swirl to be the first non-QB off the board. There's a lot of talk around Pitts going first from Florida, but yeah, Swirl is
first non-quarterback, right?
First non-quarterback, and it's plus 600. But while we're talking live action, I want to mention it before it gets away from us. I just jumped on the Rangers. The Islanders are up 3-0. The Rangers have beaten the Islanders 5-0 before. They've cashed a lot of tickets for us, and they score a lot of goals. -1.5 for the game is at a -125 right now. I think that the Rangers are good for 2 goals this game, and there's 19 minutes to go in the second period. We may see that cash in the second period. The Rangers have treated us very well.
All right, so when we look at that, well, technically you couldn't cash it if it's a game play, right?
It's total for the game, but I think we got a chance in the second period.
So, and the reason is they've scored consistently every single game. Over/under sitting at 6.5 for the game.
I'm just looking at the team total at 1.5.
Yeah, I got it at 2.5 here. Sometimes it's funny. They'll give you 5 choices. Sometimes they give you 1. And, of course, on the 5 choices, sometimes as soon as you click them, they go away. Yeah, it's live action. All right, so we're going to pay attention to that. And in terms of the draft coverage, I guess they're on the clock, it says, so it's got to be soon because it's 5:13. Let's look at what I can find for the NFL draft. John, any plays you're on live in any sports that we could look at?
Nothing live as of the moment. There was a couple plays in hockey that I was eyeing, but unfortunately at the moment there was nothing that I wanted to jump in. I was eyeing the Bruins. I was hoping they would kind of get down early, but that didn't happen. And there was another one, I believe. I think the Hurricanes was another one I was eyeing too, but they have already scored. So currently, as of right now, there is nothing going on that I have live. It's a kind of a relatively light day for me in general. There wasn't too much on the board that I liked all around in any sports. And I
will tell you a story. So now, what do we tell people? We tell if you join this show, you're going to cash tickets. But we're not perfect, and we lose too. But we just win a lot more than we lose. So the part of losing is part of the game. Yesterday, I bet a team, and the pitcher only gave up a run. And I lost.
So it sounds like the Mets.
I had the Mets, and when it was 1-0 in the fourth inning, I bet them again because they went from -2 something to -115 or something. And I was just waiting for the Mets to score. And of course, in hindsight, when I look back at the Easy Sports data, because as you know, guys, when you're right, you don't want to think about it too much. Don't be afraid to do the same thing the next time that team plays, whatever sport it is. I don't care if it's a week later in football or the next night in the NBA. The next night in the NBA may not be a true statement because you don't know who's playing guard the next night in the NBA. But so I didn't, and the under was the play. The pitcher for Boston hadn't give up many runs either. It was a great game. But so we lose just like everybody else loses. We lose too.
That's the thing about sports betting. Nobody's 100%. I can tell you that. So
all right, so
losses.
It's still showing on the clock, so we're going to pay attention. I don't really think the first pick is a question, right? However, I know that Wes, being an Ohio State fan, is probably a big fan of the coach as well down there in Jacksonville. And I told them my opinions on that team tonight on the Belly Up Fantasy Draft Picks special was that until they get rid of the owner, you could bring in a guy with holes in his hands that just came out of a tomb, and they're probably not going to win. Because it starts from the top down, and I think you're seeing that in a few organizations right now in the NFL. They don't make good decisions from the top down, and what happens is you see that in the record at the end of the year. It's really that simple. That's my opinion, however. All right, so they now have a clock. So I guess it just started.
They
have a clock now.
I'm watching it live on ESPN. They officially just.
So John, are you gonna hop on any plays in this first round? Do you think?
No, nothing to bet on. Just kind of watching, just being a fan. The great thing about the draft is that, especially in the first round, there's so many players that we watched kind of grow into stars. The Clemsons, the Alabamas, all these guys, Ohio States, all these guys have top name players. So it's interesting from an NFL fan point to see where these guys are going to go in this NFL draft, because we all know the power of B, that's the NFL, is that we're going to watch these guys in a couple months come Sunday.
Well, then let's talk about that before we hop into some other things. We're talking about a tradition of 1 out of 2, which is a coin flip. It's the same record you have if you're betting double-digit favorites on Sunday in the NFL, and that's top 10 quarterbacks that become franchise quarterbacks. For every one that does, there's another one that gets traded out his third year out of his contract. So let's look at the first guy. There's 4 of them. Let's look at the first guy, though, the Clemson kid. Yeah, sure, he's great, but don't forget, 80% of his games were in the ACC. He did play some good games, but he lost some games. He got hurt. I mean, he's not a huge kid. I don't know if I would call him mobile. He's definitely not the Alabama quarterback. What do you think, Wes? Is this kid gonna come out and win double-digit games in this first or second year?
Well, you have to look at where he's going, and I think Trevor Lawrence is a can't-miss quarterback, and to what you were talking about, there's a lot of organizations in all of sports that they just seem to whiff, and it just feels so easy from my couch to where I could point out what they could have, should have, would have done. I will say, just being an Ohio State fan and knowing Urban Meyer from a fan standpoint, he's one of the best turnaround coaches we've ever seen in any sport at any level. He just goes wherever he goes and they instantly buy into his culture. But there's some,
I mean, if I remember correctly, he was perfect at a place that he didn't win a national championship at.
This is true.
Yeah. Well, think about that. He was perfect, and that was the only school he didn't win a national championship at.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I think Trevor Lawrence in this draft is a can't miss, but I think all the other players you have to look. It's more important where they end up. The guy that goes to Detroit, well, just throw him out the window. He's a bust. The guy that goes to Pittsburgh, the guy that goes to Green Bay, even San Francisco, they're probably going to find success. Kansas City, they're going to be successful. So, as an Ohio State fan, I'd love to see Justin Fields do well. But if he goes to New York, thanks for all the W's in Columbus, but that's about what it's going to come out to. I really like the BYU quarterback, but if we're calling a spade, Zach Wilson's biggest game of the year was at Coastal Carolina. He played a great game, but that was the best defense he faced. And, I followed Coastal quite a bit. They were impressive for where they were in conference, but, that's not playing against an SEC or a Big Ten. So where the player goes, I think, is more important than.
And again, if you're an agent for a top quarterback, well, guess what? The only reason they're going top is because the team stunk. You got to stink to get a top pick. So when you look at the kid from Alabama, John, what do you think? Is he a pro quarterback? Is he going to be a winner? Is he going to win 10 games in his first or second year?
That is tough because he played with Alabama, where Alabama had remarkable pieces at every position, both offensively and defensively. So it's tough to say, where do you put him at? There's a lot of talks of him possibly going to the 49ers. It's the same thing like Wes was saying. It's all situational. I don't really see any rookie quarterback drafted this year winning 10 games, double-digit games, to be quite honest with you. I don't think Jacksonville is going to do it. I don't think the New York Jets are definitely not going to do it. And whoever picks on there from there, probably the 49ers, if they pick a quarterback, I think would probably be the closest team, I think, that would have a chance to win double digits. So we'll see how that goes. It takes a while for them to build pieces and everything.
Well, let's look. In 08, it was Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, and Josh Rosen, and three of them are not great quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield's he's a ball player. He's like Johnny Manziel sober. He's really a good ball player, and he brings it up a notch because that was a team that when you could do something for your team that they've never done in a long, long time. Yeah, But Kyle Murray out of Oklahoma, he was the Heisman Trophy winner. He's still unproven. Of course, it was ironic because didn't he replace Josh Rosen from the year? I mean, how bad are you? How bad are you if you're getting top one quarterbacks back to back like that?
Yeah, if you got to pick quarterbacks back to back years in the first draft, that's probably a sign you're not doing something right. But actually, I think Kyler Murray is a great fit. I think in Arizona, as you can see, the guy is just crazy fast, and you can see the improvements that they made. Now, obviously, Arizona built some pieces around him. They got some marquee names at wide receiver and other positions to kind of help him accelerate this past year. So that's the question. Are the Jacksonville Jaguars going to do that? You would think with the head coach situation that they're going to probably want to add a couple more pieces to give him some situational advantages. The Jets have a ton of money. They have a ton of draft picks, but this is a case where, as we were talking, there's always these teams where you can say, I'm pretty sure they're going to mess something up. and you could almost assume that's going to be the New York Jets.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna look one more. We're gonna make one more pass. I'm hopping on. I'm hopping on a play here. I'm hopping on a play. I'm hopping on the Atlanta Braves team total over. They're at home, so I'm going to get that extra at bat. They're already down 4-0. I don't care if they win the game. I just need them to score more than 2.5 at -137. So that's my play. And then we're going to look back at the Rangers and see if that line moves. Because remember, Wes, the book that on it, and people say, well, how many books do you have? Well, I have a lot of books. I don't always have a lot of money in all the books because I kind of do the West thing, you know. I take the money when it's mine, and sometimes I move it. I move it from another book, and I'll take it out of Bitcoin and I'll put it for whatever reason. One of the books I'm using right now doesn't offer the first 5 inning lines for team totals until the game starts and it's live action. So what happens is, as you know, that's one of my big plays. I want to win. I loved winning that bet. I had one where I texted you the other day. I forget who it was, but we ended up cashing in the second inning for both the first 5 innings and the game. And it's just great. It allows you to go clean the dishes or do whatever you want. All right, so I'm going back to the Islanders game. Now, I got the Islanders total. No, the Islanders, Rangers. There we go. There we go, Al. We got a 1.5. West. We got 1.5.
And they're a perfect fringe team right now. They're 4 points out of the playoffs. They're in exactly the effort spot we're looking for NHL plays right now.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked about that. We talked about those teams on the fridges. All right, so let me do that. All right. You got nothing in the NBA, John? And that is minus 101.
Yeah, nothing in the NBA that I seen. It was kind of the slate I wasn't really too pleased with today. So our plays were real limited today.
Well, then that's a great point. I mean, we say you're here, you're going to become a better guaranteed. Yeah. Well, one of the things you got to realize is sometimes you got to say no. In hindsight, I should have said no to betting the Mets, but I was given a 1.5 because I figured they'd score 2 or 3 runs, and I didn't think he would give up any. And they hit him hard 1 inning, and that was it. The kid's pitching out of his mind, really. So the top pick is in, they're saying.
Yeah, the pick is in. They haven't really announced it, but they're saying it is in. So they're just waiting for the walk on stage here.
Yeah, if he walks on stage with a haircut, I'll be impressed. That would be wild, because I would imagine he could raise a lot of money for charity if he sold his hair, huh?
Yeah. They got quite a bit of people that's I guess in this viewing area. I didn't think they would have this many people, but it looks like it's pretty packed, whatever viewing area they got set up, but looks pretty good.
Every state's a little different, and a couple weeks ago I was in Arkansas, and they were following that no mask mandate.
Yep.
They saw fit.
All right. So before we go to break, I want to remind you that I forgot to put the banners on. So at the very bottom, and remember, you might be watching this live, and you'll know, because if it's 8:26 right now, you're watching it live, and you've already got a couple plays for live action, but you also got some plays that we gave out that were Wes's plays that you could have hopped on, and you still could hop on technically, because now the Jets are on the clock.
The Jets are on the clock. Yep. Trevor Lawrence is officially number 1, which was kind of expected. So
yeah, exactly. That was not a stop the presses kind of thing. So at the very bottom of the screen, you got Instagram for Wes. You got our Bitly cash tickets here page. You've got a lot of things going on. But when we come back, I'm really ready to slide over into any live action that comes up as we see it, but I'm ready to slide into the pony. So I got to ask you guys, that was the trumpet, from when they call the horses onto the track. I love that noise. I'm gonna get it on my phone and I'll play it through my microphone if I gotta. So you're listening to Sports Betting Weekly. When we come back, we're going to be talking horse racing. John will kick in some knowledge, but I know that Wes has got it in his blood. So you're listening to Sports Betting Weekly, either on the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network at sportsbettingweekly.com bettingweeklylive.com. Or, again, if you're in New York and it's 8:28 on Thursday night, you're live on the app that really has, with our show anyway, I can't speak for other shows. With our show, it's the app worth its weight in Bitcoin, the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Sports Betting Weekly.
You keep lying when you ought to be truthing. And you keep losing when you ought to not bet.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Welcome back to Sports Betting Weekly. I'm telling you, they can play that at my funeral, guys. I got to make a note of that. Well, I'm old. Stuff happens. I mean, 500,000 people died in the last year.
There's an ongoing joke at my house because I have greyhounds. And, greyhounds are racing dogs. And when that bugle plays, I tease my dogs. It's nap time because that's what their racing career looked like.
Yeah. Oh, that's right on the edge of being mean to your puppies, man.
They both
so
bedrooms. I mean, not quite mean.
Yeah, Derby. No, I know. Derby week for me is. I'll explain Derby week in one sentence. Many things on the to-do list get moved to next week. You really have to be something that's going to make me money, something I have to do morally, ethically, or legally, or you're next week. It's really that simple. And next week might start Sunday night, but I guarantee you it ain't starting early Sunday morning. And this week there's no DC show because they're doing the Thursday and Friday. But what I did is I went on their show and I told everybody on their show, I have the Derby winner here. How do I know that? Well, I've had 5 in a row, including 2 exactas and a trifecta. However, Wes, as we all know, that second spot is hard.
It is. Some years that first spot is hard.
Yeah, the first spot, not for me the last few years, but you got to have that what was it, Lee? Looking at Lee or something like that was 60-70 to 1. It came out of nowhere to close. So I've got a couple of those. But let's talk, before we talk Derby, let's talk tomorrow. I have the racing for tomorrow, and I'm going to do the same thing I've done now. I had never, though we had followed the prep races previously on this show, we were never religiously following them because a lot of years we went off the air right after the Super Bowl. And so, we were catching those early races, but there's still 2 big races before the Derby for all those horses, and we didn't follow those. This year, I not only followed them, we talked about them, Wes, and we bet them too.
And we nailed them for the most part.
I did see your horse from Santa Anita watching the replays. Remember, you were all in on that horse in the light or something like that. I forget his name. Yeah. But of course, it got hurt or something. But yeah, and I remember what you saying that. You said the next week, I think we saw our Derby winner Saturday. And then, of course, they're 3-year-olds with small legs and big bodies and not a good combination, All right, so now on the clock, with 5 minutes to go in the draft, is the 49ers. So is there a chance that they would trade from one NFC team to another one? Let's ask John from GMF Sports Consultants.
Well, there was promptly, too, that Aaron Rodgers, of course, news broke where he was not happy in Green Bay. But I think we kind of been hearing that story for the last year or two as far as Aaron Rodgers and the coaches. San Francisco, this is where they kind of traded to this spot. The Jimmy G, questions. I don't think they would trade this spot. I think they're going to use this draft and try to build up from there because I think they're in a position too where they can kind of build with this draft and move forward very nice with the pieces they already have.
Yeah, so it has their best available and their best fit. Now, you didn't touch his pick, Wes, did you?
No, I didn't, because this one's kind of a wild card. I don't think you trade to this spot unless you know you're getting your quarterback. But I don't know which quarterback that is. Are they going with Mac Jones? I don't know that the Mac Jones from Alabama is the right fit. Even in the first round, you look at a coach like Nick Saban, and you got to figure he's gotten the absolute most, every drop of potential and juice out of every player he has. So, plus, again, he's got the best roster all around him. If I'm an executive, if I'm John Lynch, I'm not taking Mac Jones at this pick. But that's the talk. John brought up Aaron Rodgers. I don't see Green Bay needing this number 3 pick and trading with San Francisco for Aaron Rodgers. Green Bay drafted their guy last year. It was a big controversy.
I agree with you. And when you play at Alabama, everybody around you is the best of the best. I mean, they got 11 guys that'll get drafted from their defense some years. It's amazing. I did just, though, I'm glancing back at our live plays to see what's happening. And I noticed if you're an underplayer and like pitchers, which I talked about Saturday as well, this is the time of year, if you're going to hop on a pitcher that's going to end up 13-3 at the All-Star break, the way we bet, guys, you could be 25-4 betting that guy. Today, there were less than 20 runs scored in the first 5 games of the day. Boy, if you had that the run line under, you're in good shape. All right, so we don't have any change in the Atlanta game. We've got it at 2.5. They got to score more than 2.5. And we got the Rangers, right? We got the Rangers as well, and we have the Rangers getting 2.5. And last time we looked, they were down by 3, correct? All right, so let's talk about the races tomorrow. Tomorrow, a lot of people don't realize it's the girls. It's the Phillies and it's the Mares. And the pick 4 that I'm looking at starts with the 8th race. Wes, when you're looking at a pick on the racing form, now it's different than when you go to Oaklawn, like when you went a couple of weeks ago. But a normal situation, are you looking at every single race?
If my day is going to be a racing card, then yes, I am. I try and stay away from the maiden races where I don't have a lot of history in the book. If I'm looking at a maiden race and there's 10 horses and it's 1 page, I'm walking away from that race. I'm just going to get myself a refreshment and move on. If I'm at the track, a couple weeks ago, Oaklawn, a really nice track, great experience, by the way. I'm gonna put something on every race. And
you have to. You're there.
Yeah.
There's no, you could, at home, or even like tomorrow or Saturday, if we're at the casino, I can go up to the room, I can go out to the pool. There's an hour and a half between races. But at home, you can get things done. But at the racetrack, you're there, and every 30 minutes, there's another race, and you're going to play it. At least I am. That's the way I work, so no doubt about it. Do you have anything before the 8th that you looked at for tomorrow?
No, I don't have anything tomorrow. Although on Saturday, my big action starts the 6th. I like the 6th race. I like the 8th race. But as far as tomorrow's action, I'm not in it.
All right, so we're going to talk about it. So as I've done consistently in my career, I want about $1 million. If the pick 4 has purses of $1 million, I'm probably gonna go there, unless just one of the races is $1 million. And I've done that. I've thrown out the 9th and bet the 10th, 11th, and 12th because the 9th was a $75,000 claiming race. But the 8th is a grade 1 for $500,000. The 9th is a grade 2 for $300,000. The 10th is a grade 2 for $250,000. And then, of course, the last race the last race for the pick 4 that I'm betting is the 11th. It's the Oaks, and it's $1.25 million. So that is close to $2 million for this pick 4. So that's what I'm looking at playing. And the way I start is when I'm looking at the racing form, I'm doing it differently for every other race. I'm going to bet 7 races. I'm going to bet 4 races tomorrow and 4 races on Saturday. I will not even look at those other races in the morning unless, here's what happens. As you know, John's in Vegas. There's these tables, and there's people at these tables, and they have cards and they have chips. And if you give them money, they will give you chips. Now, you could walk away with those chips, or you could sit down. And if I throw in $20 on a 3-card poker and I walk away with $180, I might go to the racing form and look at the 6. But until then, that's what I'm going to focus on, the pick 4. And I mentioned earlier on the DC show and the Belly Up Fantasy show that if you're live, Wes, go into the pick 4 on Derby Day. It's a high that hour. It's a whole hour. It's a high like no other.
It's well, especially once you win a leg of it, you win the first one. I mean, there's nothing like it.
But when you got 3 or 4 pieces going, and every single one of them has a comma, everyone has a comma in the number. Some have a comma and the 2 numbers before the comma.
That's when you have your appointment at that IRS window.
Yeah, that's what you're hoping for. That's really what you're hoping for. So the 8th race, the way I look at it's a 2-horse race. So I'm going to use both of them, and I'm throwing in the horse on the rail. So I got 1, 2, 3 in the 8th. I like the 2. And the 9th was a little harder. Now, remember, I'm making these plays before I look at tomorrow. Tomorrow will tell me the track condition, but I looked at the weather, so I think we're going to be okay. But what else it'll do is it'll show me the changes. So what is the most important change? John, you bet horses enough. When you wake up in the morning, what are the changes you normally would see?
It all depends on different aspects of the track and the course and the betting and everything like that. So this week I have a couple horses that I'm eyeing for the actual Derby race itself. I did a little bit of research for it, so I'm excited about that. It's kind of my daughter's birthday is on the 3rd, but we're actually celebrating it on the 4th. So we're doing a little joint B-Day party and little Derby party at the house as well for it. So it should be an interesting day for us. So yeah.
Happy birthday in advance. Let's do an update. Chicago at Atlanta, bottom of the 4th. 1st and 2nd, 2 outs. Atlanta's already scored, so we got 1 of the 3 that we need. You got any updates on the NHL for us, Wes?
Still goose egg on the Rangers. It's 3-0 Islanders over the Rangers, and we're looking for the +2.5 for the Rangers and over 1.5. So we need the Rangers scored 2 this period. It's not like that.
I'm planning on coming back and visiting that over again. Remember, it was still fairly high when we looked earlier, but that 3rd period over for me would mesh very well, actually, with the wager I already have. So let's look at that.
Nice.
All right.
Very nice. Well, we got a little draft up. The 49ers selected the quarterback from North Dakota State, which is kind of interesting.
They went with Lance. Huh?
They went with Lance. Yeah, I just seen the stat. He had the fewest attempts thrown of any first-round quarterback ever, which is interesting.
So that's you could do a whole hour talking about that if you were a 49ers podcast. There's no doubt about it. Oh my God.
Yeah, definitely. They ran a lot of these options and whatever, kind of shotgun things. I would say almost kind of reminiscent to the early stages of when they had Kaepernick. It looks like it. I don't know if that's what they're trying to go back to here, but I think it's a questionable kind of draft pick there. I don't know. I hope it works out for him.
And he was +2. He was +200. So that's not bad.
I like the move for them because they're in a division. A lot of people don't realize it, but the pass rush and the defense for Arizona was top 10 last year. So you got Arizona's defense, you got the Rams defense, and you got Russell Wilson in the division. So you need a guy that could run for his life a little bit. I don't hate the move, and there's probably still some potential there.
Well, yeah, you don't think if you're playing D2, okay, you're getting coached by D2 coaches. And I'm not disrespecting any coach. Coaching is hard. I've coached. It's hard. The bottom line is the quality and the knowledge and the investment and everything that has to do with an organization is minuscule at best at D2 level. And so it's going to be he's definitely an investment in the future. And so I would agree with you, Wes, that it's hard to hate that pick. I really think.
I could talk forever about it, which I won't do. But with the salary cap, What's very interesting is if a team can figure out a way to always have a quarterback on their rookie contract and just put great pieces around him, it just feels like the new version of Moneyball. I mean, if a team can figure
the logic is sound. The logic is sound. I'm not arguing you.
Just don't pay your quarterback $40 million and pay everybody else. And look what Alabama does. Their quarterbacks are never phenomenal.
Well, so I'm going to ask you a question. A team that wins. Okay, the Pittsburgh when they were winning, the Cowboys when they were winning. How many offensive plays a game they running? Throw a number out, either of you.
I'm going to guess between 45 and 60.
Yeah, how many times is the quarterback going to be the final person throwing that ball?
Exactly.
Half of that, maybe, right? Mm-hmm. And so, out of 60 plays, maybe 25, 35 are going elsewhere. So, yeah, if he's just handing the ball off, how do you argue with that? You give him a great run, because the defensive line wins championships. It always has, and it always will in football. It probably does that in a lot of other sports that have lines that I just don't know. Soccer probably too. All right, so let's look at that. So I'm going to ask you, Wes. You wake up, you got your picks, you got the form, you go down the Chip Slicker on Garnett Street in Pacific Beach, California. Maybe you hang at the beach, watch the girls, read a couple of the races. Then you go home, you have lunch, you got the racing form, you're reading the racing form, you're making your picks, and then Saturday comes and you open up DRF and you go to the changes. What are some of the things that you're going to see?
Well, obviously track condition and weather, and that matters. And, fast track turning into something doesn't necessarily bother me as much as muddy, sloppy turning into good or fast, because I've always questioned that. If it starts raining outside, obviously that's the track condition, but I always question underneath that top layer when they're calling it fast and what that really does mean to the horses. I don't question it as much if the race I'm looking at is on the grass or if it's on that outer turf. But I always look at that. The weather, it doesn't really matter to me if it's 50 degrees or 80 degrees outside. If the sun is out or not, it's what's the track condition. And obviously scratches. Anybody that I got in a key or I got in a box, and the favorites are there, but you're looking at where you can throw value into these super or try plays. And so if you get a couple scratches that mess up the logic you had going into the race, that's always something I look at too. So scratches and track conditions being upgraded.
And these big races, one I'll throw in is jockey changes. Say Thursday at Santa Anita, a dude gets thrown off his mountain, breaks his collarbone. He's fine. The horse is fine. Everybody's good. Don't worry. But it is part of the, when you're 110 pounds and you're riding a ton of horse, you could break your collarbone. And all of a sudden now, and he picked his of the two or even three with some of those great jockeys, horses that they could choose from the Derby. He picked one, and now somebody else is on it. That'll mess you up. I personally, though, Wes, I love when I'm 4 or 5 deep because I just couldn't decide. And one of those is scratch, because that's like just making money for me. I put money right back in my pocket. All right, so when I get to the 9th, that's one of those races. I've got the 6, the 8, the 10, the 11, and the 12. I just couldn't throw out a couple of those horses at the end. However, I'm going to tell you both right now. I'm not going to text this to you because I'm giving to you live. In the 9th race, it's about 4:04 Eastern. So, John, that's 1 o'clock for me and you. The 12, Carmel Swirl, is the horse that I'm betting. It's a Mott horse. I like it for a couple reasons. It's 2 for 2 in the winner place at this distance, but it just ran a blazing 122. You don't see a lot of 122s, do you, for 7 furlongs, Wes?
No, that is fast.
They're changing the jockey, and the jockey's a little bit of an upgrade. And his first race out, he lost to a horse. And guess where she's running? She's running in the Oaks. So that is that's my play. I'm not going to text you guys, but you should have a couple bucks on ours. I think it's going to be double digits. So in the 10th, it is the turf race. It's the only turf race. Now, this is one of the reasons a lot of times with pick fours, Wes, that I will bet some of those earlier races and actually look at them because I want to get an idea. How did my handicap and do on the turf? Because usually it's a turf, dirt kind of thing. But this race Thursday, it's 3 dirt and only 1 turf. So if I'm wrong on the turf, I don't have a chance for redemption. I might want to look at a turf race earlier in the day, not necessarily even bet it, but handicap it and see who I would have liked. But if I'm going to handicap it, I'm going to put a couple ducats on it. And then at least I know I'm reading the form right, I'm reading the track right, I'm reading the grass right. But that race is the Twin Spires Turf Sprint. It's 5.5 furlongs, which is, in a blink of an eye, the record for the track is 1 minute and 2 seconds. We don't, even as good as we are, I don't think we've had that many cashes after a minute. we cash a lot quick, but I don't know if we've had any after a minute. But I've got the 3, 8, 9, and 10. And I really like this 3 horse because he's run a couple, the girls Thursday, she's run a couple times faster speeds than these other horses have even come close to. So she's put in, she ran a minute. The track record here, it's a different track, but track record here is a 102. She did in a minute. She did it in 103. And the other horses are all at 104, 105. Sometimes you can find the fastest horse in the race. They're just the fastest horse in the race. And if they don't have any of those issues that we both know, or all 3 of us know happen with horse racing, you get pinched, jockey falls off, you stumble out of the gate, whatever the case may be, sometimes the fastest horse is the fastest horse. So in that race, I got 3, 8, 9, 10, but I'm keying on the 3 and the 8. And in the 9th, the race I gave you, the 12th, I'm also keying on the 8 and the 10. So I'll have pick 3s, I'll have pick 4s, I'll have some doubles, but I'll also key those other horses in another. So I'll have 2 pick 4s, usually one for the minimum 50 cents, and then one for $1 or $2 with less horses in it. And then we get to the Oaks, and you know what? I got 4 horses. I got the 3, the 7, the 10, and the 12. And I got the 7 and the 10 circled. The 10 is that horse that I mentioned. She's the Malathat. It's the best horse in the race. I may not even be pronouncing that right, Wes. Do you know if I am?
Sounds
you heard
to me. Yeah, I mean, you sold it to me.
Yeah, but there's a hunch play here. The one of the other favorites, the 6 Travel Column, beat the 3 the last time out. The time before that, they ran 1-2 again, but with the 3 on top, and the time before that, and you don't see this very often, 3 straight races, these horses ran 1-2, and so I'm telling you right now, you need to box 3-6 in that 11th, just because maybe they like the smell of each other. I don't know, but I've seen that happen, Wes, where horses run 1-2 back to back to back.
They do. I mean, it happens, and it's a matchup thing, or it might be the smell, like you said.
Yeah, and you never know. The bottom line is horses are pretty consistent, and that's where handicapping becomes a struggle sometimes. You might like the 7. Well, the 7 just ran against the 6, and the 6 almost beat him, but if you like the 7, you almost have to use the 6. And then next thing you know, you're sitting on a derby, and you went through the handicap and you still have 13 horses live. So you threw out 7, which in any other race of the year would be great. You'd probably have 2 horses left, but not on Derby Day. So when we get back, John, you said you have a Derby play, right?
Yeah, I got a couple of things I'm going to put together for the Derby. You got to have some action on the Derby.
Yep. And I have not picked up my racing form for Saturday from Chip's Liquor. I am using the early edition of the past performances for the Derby plays, but I put it into the system. It took me about 2.5 hours to put in all the numbers, crunch the numbers, and then watch the handful of prep races that I wanted to re-watch. But when we come back, between me, John, and Wes, you're going to get the Kentucky Derby winner. You're listening to Sports Betting Weekly, either at Sports Betting Weekly Live on the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network or at the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
At championshipfootballs.com, they offer a 100% money-back guarantee on every single souvenir football that they sell. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. There's nothing worse than trying to find the right gift for somebody that already has everything. Whether that special present is for a New England Patriots fan or an Ohio State Buckeyes backer. Maybe Gramps is a lifelong New York Giants supporter. Or your brother-in-law is a 12th man living in Seattle. Know a member of the Michigan State Alumni Association? Is there a better Father's Day gift for someone who's a Baltimore Ravens fan? Send them the coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. Now, if your favorite pro team is the Buffalo Bills or those Minnesota Vikings, well, they're sorry about that. Also, if you're a New Mexico State Aggies or Tulane Green Wave alumnus, not much they can do. After all, the name isn't nice effort, you had a pretty good season, footballs.com. The name is championshipfootballs.com. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed.
Hey, this is an important message. I'm Second Half Chaz from Sports Betting Weekly. Sports betting is supposed to be a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. If you're hurting yourself by gambling with money you don't have, check out our website for the Gamblers Anonymous phone number.
When Vince Young scored on 4th and 5 in the 2006 Rose Bowl, two things happened. The Texas Longhorns won the NCAA title, and ChampionshipFootballs.com was born. From Texas to Alabama to Ohio State, and now for Super Bowl winners too. ChampionshipFootballs.com is the place for the coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. Now, 10 years later, ChampionshipFootballs.com has the autographs too. See if any of these names remind you of a special time in your football life. Michael Bennett, Lou Holtz, Joe Montana, Devin Smith, Jameis Winston, Rocky Blyer, Rocket Ishmael, Ara Parsegian, Mike Stonebreaker, Chris Zorich, Luther Bradley, Todd Light, Tony Rice, Lawrence Tiller, Dave Casper, Marcus Mariota, Rudy Rudiger, David Tyree. Enter the promo code RADIO and you'll instantly save $50 on any of the ChampionshipFootballs.com autographed footballs. ChampionshipFootballs.com. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Welcome back to Sports Betting Weekly. I am Second Half Chaz. I'm now getting to where I'm feeling the fact that I closed the window because there was some noise outside before I hopped on with the Belly Up Fantasy. So it's about a bazillion degrees in my studio right now. But we are going to talk Kentucky Derby, and we're going to talk Kentucky Derby for the rest of the time we are here because it is, to me, it's Christmas morning. It's so much better than the Super Bowl. It really is. I don't have any other way to describe it. I actually have tickets from the Breeders' Cup that I held on to for Derby Day. I am excited. I haven't, you went. It's pretty cool having tickets in your hand, Wes. You went to Oaklawn. I haven't had that in a while.
It is fantastic. I mean, a couple of the guys I were with, they were betting mobile when we were down in the infield, but I went to the Mutual every single time. I had the tickets. I even took what I knew was a loser and put it in the machine just to have it spit it right.
That's right, baby. Ticket is a loser.
It just,
you know what? You never know. All right, so let's talk about. Let's start with John, because John, we talked how when you first came to Vegas from New York, horse racing was part of the world you were in, and one of the reasons is the barriers to entry for betting on the ponies is very unique. You can't go up to the window at most books and say, I want $2 on the over in the St. Louis Rams game or whatever.
Yeah.
You can't do that. But you can not only go up there, but if you're nice and it's a slow day, you can get a drink ticket for $2 and action on the horse. So let's talk about your Derby. Do you have any, before we get to your pick, do you have any great Kentucky Derby memories?
As far as any big winners, nothing that pops off to the top of my head. There's been plenty of great races that I've watched either on the TV or at the sports book. And just, I think at the sports book is probably the greatest feeling because you get the crowd, so into it. I would probably say, and I forget the horse, but he won the Triple Crown. This was probably about, 5-6 years ago. That was probably, I think, one of the greatest, experience.
The first one after a while. California Chrome, was it? Maybe,
off the top of my head, I forget his name, but I just knew.
Yeah. Tommy and I went out Tommy and I went out to the casino.
Everybody was glued watching that, and it was just amazing just to see, just to see him blow everybody away. So that would probably be the most recent one that I could remember.
You're in Vegas now. March Madness, sure. Super Bowl, yeah, but the Kentucky Derby is up there, isn't it? As one of the biggest draw days.
Oh yeah, Kentucky Derby is up there. I mean, if you go to any given book, you're going to have your everyday horse bettors there at 8 o'clock in the morning. They're bringing their lunch. They got the guide in front of them, and they're hanging out there all day. That's at any book given here in Vegas. Now for Kentucky Derby, you're going to get that, but times that by 10, because you're going to get a lot of people who like to come out, who like to watch all the races. Especially on the Saturday, because normally there's not too much going on, baseball and obviously basketball, but there's Saturdays more like the Derby day. And a lot of the casinos, they do special things. They have drinks, they give away free T-shirts, they give away hats. There's a lot of promotions that they give away for the horse racing.
Oh, one more thing. I did hop on that, Wes. I'm going with the synergy of the Rangers opening up here. I got over 1.5 for the third period, minus 168. But I also put a little sprinkling, as you taught us with your sports investment strategy, on that over 2.5 as well. So we'll see what happens. All right. So, I have one story where I was leaving work. I had a job many, many years ago. I didn't just always sell footballs. And they said, so who do you like tomorrow? And I said, well, if you're real quiet, I'll tell you who I like. And I walked out the door. And the horse won. I think it was, 50 to 1, or how big was Real Quiet? What price did he pay? I think we paid. He was high. He was high up there. So let's see. Real Quiet. God bless the internet, huh? What was his Derby price? Do you remember, Wes?
I want to say it was like 38 to 1, 40. I mean, it was up there. The biggest one I remember was Summer Bird, or Mind That Bird.
Mind That Bird. Yep.
The biggie that was in the 50s.
Yeah, I can't find it here. I'll have to look it up. But it was a nice price. But I did it. I gave it out. And you know what? We talk about it all the time in the show, guys. If you don't give out your pick, you can't go back and say I told you so. You got to give it out first. So that was a pretty cool one. I'm trying to see here if the Kentucky Derby, 1998 Kentucky Derby. I've had some winners since then. I just remember this guy, and I'm seeing if I can find the price. I'm not. So let's talk to John again now. John, we've got your story. Talk to us about tickets. I want to cash tickets on the Derby tomorrow. Who do you like?
I gotcha. Well, a couple that I kind of poked out. Obviously, we know the favorite, Essential Quality. He's probably the 2 to 1, 3 to 1, depending on where your book is. Just doing some quick research on him, he's 5-0. I believe he won his last 5 races, finished first in all of them. So, obviously he's a favorite there for a reason. Son of Tappet, so he's got a good bloodline working there as well. At 2 to 1, I'm personally, like, if you're just playing one ticket to win, I'm not going to bet him at 2 to 1. I might mix him up, in a couple exotics with a trifecta or a superfecta, but I'm not going to put him in any straight bet to win. One of the horses that I do like is going to be Known Agenda. He's coming in at the 1, so he's going to be on the rail there. So we're going to have to see how he starts off quick to kind of hold that position. Pletcher Ortiz, that will be the trainer jockey combination. So I kind of like that one. We'll see how he does. He's at 6 to 1 as of right now, I do believe. So we'll see what the morning line adjusts to that. And then a couple other that I'm going to mix in just because I like their name and I kind of like their position would be Midnight Bourbon, Hot Rod Charlie, and then Soup and Sandwich would probably be some that I'm going to mix in, with some trifectas and some superfectas. And as always, I'm going to throw in a couple of the long shots just to throw them in there because you never know. So take a shot with those 30, 40. There's a lot of 50 to 1s that I'm seeing on the board. It's a big, big field. So you might as well take a shot and throw some of those in there. For a couple bucks, like you said, it's worth it.
Yeah, well, just so you know, I usually in the past I had an epiphany, okay? In the past, I would never have win bets on Derby Day. And then I started getting beat by these bombs that I didn't have in the middle spot. Then I'd go back west and I'd look at the racing form again, and I still wouldn't bet it, even if I knew the results. That's how bad it looked on paper. But here's what you got. Essential Quality was 3.7 to 1 when he won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, which is a pretty big race.
Yep.
Since then, he's 90 cents on the dollar and 50 cents on the dollar. So 2 to 1 is an astronomical price. Think about what we got to do, and think about how many live bets that we've made. I need 2.5 goals in 20 minutes to get plus 204, right, in that game. But with that horse, you can get $6 for $2. So don't be afraid to take that and throw it on there just to have a little bit, because if you're just betting the exotics and you don't catch that second horse, I've had first, third, fourth, and fifth on a ticket. You look at that ticket a lot longer than you would before you throw it in the machine to say it's a loser, Wes, because you know how close you were. You're just looking. The horse came out of nowhere. So I wouldn't hesitate doing that. But I like all your horses, and I'll tell you right now, except for the we talked about the soup and sandwich people, didn't we? Was it at this show where we talked about the Campbell's people?
No, we didn't.
No.
All right, so one of the shows I was on, somebody was talking about the Campbell soup people, or the heir of the Campbell soup own that, and all their horses have soup in their name or something. I don't have that horse, but everybody else you mentioned is definitely a player. Let's talk to Wes. Wes, I got a memory for Derby. What is yours?
I remember Big Brown. I mean, that was one of my favorite horses to watch. Obviously, the American Pharaoh, that was a great moment in horse racing, but it wasn't so much the Derby. I mean, I just about shed a tear when he won the Belmont, just seeing it. But Big Brown, that was a horse that was just really dominant, and seeing him in the Derby, and that was, I remember where I was. I lived in Carolina at the time, and didn't really have didn't really know anybody. I was new to the city, and I just really looked forward to that race, and I loved watching that horse. And you talk about one of the best horses that just didn't close the deal. That was an exciting one for me. But some of my favorite horses of all time, Zenyatta is my favorite horse ever, and she didn't have enough points in her 3-year-old campaign to even be in the Derby. But 6 months later, she turned around and beat all the boys. Oh yeah, and then came back and did it again the following year.
Yeah, I had 10 to win online in a future pool on a 50 to 1 shot to one, and it turns out Real Quiet was 10 to 1, paid $20, $18. Don't get me wrong, it was a great day, but this horse was 50 to 1, and it paid 50 to 1. I didn't have anything on it at the track because I got beat. I got nipped. I think I had the girl, and the girl ran second, but then she got nipped for third. I didn't hit the exact. I had nothing. I had all losers. I had $500 on my account, but which we didn't have phones back then. I had $500 on my account. I had to borrow money from Tommy to buy a beer to celebrate and hitting a 50 to 1 on the Derby. That's horse racing in a nutshell right there, man. It was a crazy night. All right, so Wes, who's going to win?
Well, you know what? I do not like either one of the favorites. I do not like Essential Quality. I'm looking at value, and I just looking at win, place, show value. But just as far as what I'm looking at with these horses, I don't think that the number 14 is going to win the race. I like the 19. I like Soup and Sandwich. I like the track that it's coming from. I like the way that it performed in the Florida Derby. I don't think that it was ridden the right way, and I think the jock knows it. This is a horse that only has 4 races under its belt, and it could be peaking at the right time. And it raced against Known Agenda, which is the second favorite in this race. And so the 19 is a great value play. It's not going to go off at 30 to 1. I think that it's probably going to be more in the teens. I think Super Stock at 18 is going to be a part of every box that I play. Again, good speed. I like coming from the Arkansas Derby. And then What's the other one I got written down? The 14 is the favorite on paper, but I truly don't see it. The speeds are there, but I don't like the way that it ran in Keeneland. Just barely nosing out, highly motivated. And I think highly motivated will be there. I just don't think it's going to win the race. So I'm looking at 18 and 19, and I think that the 17 is going to be there. Those are some higher numbers. Usually in the Derby, the low post positions don't fare well, but we got Known Agenda at the 1, so I think you kind of got to throw that into it. So I mean, I'm looking at 1, 17, 18, 19, and you can't completely throw Essential Quality out, but I do not like the 14 to win the race. I'm calling for the 19 to win the race.
Wow, that would be the same horse that I just bashed for John. That bash is probably an aggressive term.
I did not bring it up that way to be contrarian at all. Not even a little bit.
Yeah. So I have this as a 2-horse race with highly motivated and Essential Quality. I think they're the 2 fastest horses. I think if they get a clean trip, I think they're just the 2 fastest horses in the race. But what do we know? It's the Kentucky Derby, and how many numbers did you use? You used numbers like 17 and 19 and 18. Think about that. In most races leading up to this, it was 7, 8, and 9. There might have been a 12 or 2. There might have been 1 race or 2 races with 12, but that was it. So this is a whole different animal. But I also like Super Stock and Midnight Bourbon. I know that both of you guys mentioned those. And here's how I do it. I've got all my data, and I'm going to put out the plays for those other races tomorrow. But what I'm doing is this. I'm taking my top 3 horses for my data are Essential Quality, Hot Rod Charlie, Highly Motivated. I'm going to box them. Then I'm going to add Super Stock and Midnight Bourbon and box them. And then I'm going to do a partial wheel with trifectas and supers with Essential Quality, Hot Rod Charlie, and Highly Motivated on top of Essential Quality, Hot Rod Charlie, Highly Motivated, Known Agenda, Medina Spirit, Superstock, Midnight Bourbon, and Obesis. Obesis is my upset special. The horse, all it does is run. It runs to the very end. I've watched 3 of its prep races. It just keeps running. The race was over. I swear to God, this horse kept running. It just loves it. So I'm hoping that's that second or third bomb that I need to pay off. But that's a total of $235, which is normally $35 more than I'll start with. I normally start with a $200 voucher. And then I play by ear. The first race to me is always the most important race of the day because then you're playing with house money. And I had a couple of years back, I walked into the door. It was 2 years ago, obviously, because we didn't go last year. I walked in the door on the first race of the pick 4, and not only had the winner, I hit the trifecta. I put all the money back, plus another $100 into my hiding pocket. I don't know if you guys gamble with a hiding pocket. I know it's there, but I used it to hide the money from myself because I would not hesitate to go up at the room, find my wife, say, Vicky, no matter what I do, don't give me this money back. And so that was a good day too, because I was playing with house money the whole day. I was not going to dip into that money. And so if you lose a couple races, I've got all my Derby bets in. If you lose a couple races, you're not losing sleep. But I will also then, depending on how the day goes, I might throw some of those in. And of course, because I have to go through this whole show and I have to edit it, I'm going to make sure and write down those plays again. And I guarantee you, I will have soup and sandwich on something because you both mentioned it. I know it might have been Ziggy. It might have been when we had Ziggy on. Ziggy might have told me that. You remember we had Ziggy on earlier in the year? You guys remember that?
I think so. I remember the whole Campbell's thing. I don't know if it was from that show, but I remember somebody telling me that too about the whole Campbell's connection with that. I think it might have been that connection too. Yeah. So yeah.
But and then what we do, one of the things we do, I think there are going to be 4 or 5 guys there tomorrow or Saturday. We all throw in $20, $30, $15, whatever it is to make it. And we usually then we all pick a horse and then we do some consensuses and we'll try to get like a 6-horse trifecta. Because as you know, guys, you get 1 or 2 bombs in there and you hit the trifecta on Derby Day. and that $20 is going to pay back a lot more than $20.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
Something interesting, as you know, we're all talking, giving our picks. None of us mentioned the 15 Rock Your World, and that horse is 3-0. And what's interesting in the program is that Rosario could have been on the number 9, which is 8-1, top 4 favorite in the race, and he's riding a different horse. When you see a jock go from a single digit morning line to an even better one in the race, I mean, he had to make that decision. Number 15 is 3-0 coming out of Santa Anita. That's an interesting one that all three of us kind of didn't.
Well, I will give Rock Your World credit because he did make the top 3, 5, 11. He made the top 11, but I threw him out. Yeah, and again, you got to throw some of them out. You can't bet them all. There's no reason to bet a $17,000 ticket that's going to pay $15,000. I mean, that don't make any sense. Not that Vicky would let me bet $17,000 on the Derby anyway. So, all right, before we go, John, tell us where they can follow you.
Like always, GMF Sports Consultants on Instagram, GMF Sports Betting on Facebook. You can also pull up my website, GMF Sports Consultant, on the World Wide Web as well. Feel free to reach out. Also on the hashtag Cash Tickets. You can always get a chance to work with any of us during the weekend for a relatively low price.
Wes, did you cash any of your draft picks?
I need to check. So I
know you had something to do with the 4th pick, right?
I had Sewell going as the first non-running back for plus 600, and that did not happen.
Pitts, who was that?
It was Kyle Pitts.
Pitts, yeah,
going to Atlanta.
He went to Atlanta. Yep, which would probably be a good fit for him, I think.
Well, yeah, the bottom line is the dude can play football. He can catch anything.
Oh yeah, he's very, very good. That'll be a very good fit for him, especially in Atlanta with all the rest of the pieces if they keep Julio Jones and everybody else.
All right, Wes, where do they reach you?
You can find me at 151 Sports Investing on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can find me at the hashtag Cash Tickets or my members page. It's Chicago Options Trader. You make some money in the market Monday through Friday or even on crypto. And then you get my weekly podcasts on Thursday night and direct access to my plays and everything else we got going on.
Now, one thing I will let everybody know that one guy here's last name is investing and one guy is consultant. They know what they're doing. Check out sportsbettingweekly.com. Go to the Cash Tickets page. And I guarantee you, if you do that Friday night, Saturday morning, when you go to work or wake up Monday morning, you'll have more in your account than when you started. I guarantee it. How do I know that? Oh my God. Because we do it. Yeah, I don't know. Not every week, but 7 out of 8 weeks, maybe. Wes, you had a bad day. Remember you had a bad NHL day?
I did. And it happens. And you kind of, as any investor does, you just kind of got to say, well, okay, well, how was my 48 hours? How was my week? Okay, we're good.
Yep, exactly.
That's why there's a bankroll management strategy. I mean, we do miss, but not often and not that bad.
I lost on a guy that only gave up 1 run. It's called sports betting for a reason. I am Second Half Chaz. You can find me, of course, at Second Half Chaz on Twitter. But more importantly, go to sportsbettingweekly.com. Check out the Cash Tickets page. You can go to sportsbettingweeklylive.com tomorrow. You can go to Belly Up Sports Podcast Network tomorrow. Tonight, we're done here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, and we will not be on Saturday with the DCs, but we will be there tomorrow, and tomorrow they'll get my Derby picks because I saved them for you guys. Do me a favor. Always be cashing.
Sports Betting Weekly.